Commissioner Jensen,
Present.
Commissioner Keeley, Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Montesino,
Here.
Commissioner Alternate Hurst,
Here.
Commissioner Alternate Schifrin,
Here.
Commissioner DeSerpa,
Present.
Commissioner Koenig,
Here.
Commissioner Downing, Commissioner Lynn,
Here.
Commissioner Leonore,
Here.
ex officio Ryder. You have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, any additions and deletions to the consent agenda, regular agenda?
We have posted to the RTC website handouts for items 8 and 23. We have replacement pages for 16 and 17, and we also have an add-on page for item 17. And we have also posted on our website a Spanish version of our agenda.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And now on to oral communication. This is an opportunity for members of the public to weigh on items not on the agenda.
I just have some comments, Matt Farrell, and I have some comments on item 8 in the consent agenda. Not asking to pull it from the agenda. We were wondering, why is staff recommending the particular structure of a 401c and plan? What
Matt,
other?
this is for an opportunity for members of the public, not stuff on the agenda. If you're going to talk about on the consent item, we'll get to that in,
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm concerned about the opacity of communications within the RTC. Prior to Guy Preston's tenure, the RTC worked diligently to ensure transparent governance, and many members of the public have been increasingly concerned not only about the lack of transparency, but about who this agency and some of its commissioners represent. I've been attending these meetings regularly since 2021 and have seen in a number of cases the will of the people pushed aside for personal or special interests. As is typical of our electeds, people on the dais may serve for only a term or two and bring fresh eyes, but also lack the history and perspective. This is why it's critically important for our packets to be fully made available in the information. Just one example, the failure to provide public information regarding the letters from Progressive Rail is concerning to me. This was mentioned in 2022. I brought it up again last week. The RTC has claimed that it's met its obligations per the ACL, but clearly Progressive Rail has time and again stated that the independent inspections agreed upon by both parties have not been done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jim Helmer, Ben Lomond. I was looking through the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan to see that tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars are being studied and under construction for trails from Watsonville through Aptos, Capitola, Santa Cruz, all the way to Davenport. The item of the San Lorenzo Valley River Trail, estimated at $40 million for 15 miles in length, has zero funding. I really think we need to look at the parity of trail systems in San Lorenzo Valley. The section from Glen Arbor Road to Highlands Park, less than a quarter mile, would be perfect. Two heavy destinations. The second segment should be from Brackney Way Bridge to the school campus. Perfect. No driveways, heavy slides, trees down. It's an opportunity.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ryan Sarnataro from Live Oak. Only 1 minute instead of 2. Okay, I've got here a book, which I have copies of for each commissioner. It's a book about what's happened in Marin County and how the SMART train has, it only costs $1 billion there instead of $4 or $5 billion here, and how it is facing a fiscal cliff, moving only 3,000 people a day despite being close to San Francisco. And the thing is that the parallels between Marin and here are really important for the commissioners to understand. Our population is too small. The train doesn't have large employers near the tracks. The train is inequitable. You're talking about a 1.5% to 2.5% sales tax increase to support this thing for a few thousand riders, and then all the people in the county get to pay for it. You need to be forthcoming about just what this is going to look like in the future for Santa
Thank you.
Cruz.
Seeing no one else in chambers, anybody online?
Yes, we do. We currently have 3 speakers. Brett Garrett.
Can you hear me? I'm trying to find the unmute.
You're unmuted.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, good morning. This is Brett Garrett from Santa Cruz, advocating, as always, for personal rapid transit, PRT. It's my understanding there will be another corridor study or alternatives analysis, something like that, looking into routes from Watsonville to Santa Cruz. And I just want to encourage, I hope we can avoid some of the mistakes that have been made in the past. The previous alternatives analysis was really poisoned by an assumption that the rail corridor was the best route from Watsonville to Santa Cruz. Using the rail corridor was literally one of the criteria that was prioritized, with no consideration of how someone would get from, say, Green Valley and Freedom in Watsonville to Dominican Hospital or UCSC. PRT can provide a nonstop ride from many parts of Watsonville to dozens of locations in Santa Cruz, and it could be implemented within 5 or 10 years, not in 2047. So that's what we need from our next transportation system, and that's what our studies should look for. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
James Wheeler. Mr. Wheeler.
Sorry, unmuting. My name's Jim Weller. I am one of the 56,342 who voted no way Greenway. We voted to build the trail and keep the rails. We have not changed our minds. We know that if our railroad tracks are ripped out and paved over, they will never be restored. Public rail transit is what we want. That's what we bought the railroad for. We want progress toward that goal, and we don't want to sacrifice it for the sake of a bike path. We want both. We know there is a way to do it. On behalf of the majority, I will request that item 8 be removed from the consent agenda and discussed publicly. We have questions.
Thank you.
Fred Geiger.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think a lot of other people, the last gentleman just mentioned the overwhelming majority that voted for some kind of alternative mass transit. We're wondering what's plan B? The rail is apparently off the table for decades. You've approved a 3-lane freeway widening. That's proceeding, but as anybody who drives contra commute direction, we can see that the 3 lanes are not going to do any better than the 2 lanes. Particularly inbound, you've got a bottleneck going onto 17 and into town. What is plan B? What are you going to do? What's the future hold for us? It's obvious that something else needs to be done. You've been reluctant to expand your consciousness into looking at alternatives such as personal rapid transit. $500 million on the highway widening hasn't produced and will not produce any relief. The people want a new system. Please put a few of the bucks into looking for something that will actually work. It's time.
Thank you.
Jack Brown.
Hi, Jack Brown, resident of Aptos. Just calling in with my, will now be my monthly delineator report for Soquel Avenue, Soquel Drive. From our high of 139 delineators knocked down as of November 22nd, we did go down to 40 delineators are currently knocked down on the roadway. I'd like to thank Public Works for going out there and at least putting some back up, but they are getting knocked down at a very high rate. And hopefully the supervisors and the RTC can find a way to find some funding to put something in similar to the FG 300 interstate grade curb system. So we'll be seeing on the updates to 41st Avenue between Gross and the Capitola City line. We really need to get those delineators back. We need some separation between bikes and vehicles, as every
Thank you.
single delineator has been hit. I've got 10 seconds. Okay, whatever. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Jean Brocklebank.
Good morning, commissioners. Well, a minute's not a whole lot of time, but it's enough time to say, keep up the good work. There are people watching the meeting by Zoom and not able to be attending, but we want you to know that we're out here. The last thing I want to say is I also want you to know that there are many, many people in the county of Santa Cruz who hope you do not take the PRT bait. It's not going to solve any of the problems that a good pedestrian bicycle trail will solve, nor even passenger rail. It's not a PRT is not a plan B. That's my message, and I want you to know that that I'm glad that the commission is not going to grab a hold of that and run with it. Thank you. Have a good meeting. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
That was our last speaker.
I think we'll close that out and move on to the consent agenda.
Brett Garrett,
Yes.
Geiger.
Anybody from the commission like to question and comment on the consent agenda? Commissioner Hurst?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lowell Hurst here. I'm representing the 4th district, even though I live in the 2nd district, and that's a good puzzle. But I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be a constructive and productive member of this group. We have a lot to do, and we've got a lot of history, and we've got a lot of future ahead. And so just giving my greetings from the city of Watsonville and my constituents in the 4th district. Thank you.
Right. Seeing no other comments on the consent item, I'm going to go out to the public. The public to weigh in the consent items.
Chair Montecito, it's my understanding that if a member of the public requests an item be pulled from the consent agenda, the commission needs to pull that item. And I wanted to speak on item 8 under oral communications, but I think it's probably appropriate to wait until that item is moved to the regular agenda.
Just doesn't it? My understanding has to be pulled by a commissioner, not
That's
a public
correct. The
member.
commission has to approve pulling any item off the consent count.
How can you?
I'm sorry, if the commission didn't hear what I had said is that the public can request that an item be pulled off the agenda, but it's up to the commission to decide whether an item is pulled off the agenda, off the consent agenda.
Well, then I will make my comments here under comments on the consent agenda. I'm speaking for Friends of the Rail Trail. My name's Matt Farrell. Our questions are why under item 8, the staff is recommending the proposed structure and plan. What other options were considered as part of that? and that any entity formed by the RTC should comply with the Brown Act and should provide full transparency for any donations it receives. A standard 501c4 does not have these requirements. Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak to item number 7, which is removal of call boxes. It's heartening to know that the RTC is deciding to remove a 20th century technology from the transportation system. After all, people have cell phones. Things have changed. There is also a 19th century transportation infrastructure in Santa Cruz County, which also, in parallel with those call boxes, is now obsolete, superseded by new technology. And I think that the technology available to utilize what that resource is now occupying will only advance in the future. And so I hope that you look to the future rather than the past for Santa Cruz County transportation solution.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. It feels that there's a disdain for both the RTC and Progressive Rail, and this is gravely concerning. I'd like to make clear that Roaring Camp has donated and dedicated countless hours of materials and labor for free and have made possible our public purchase of the rail line. They made that possible. A few very vocal opponents in this community point figures at Roaring Camp, intentionally misinforming the community by laying blame on Roaring Camp for delaying the trail, and this could not be further from the truth. They put in a lot of free time to help support the construction and repair. Using public funds to hire legal counsel to move forward with actions which in general do not align with Measure D vote is unacceptable to the close to 74% which voted no on Greenway Measure D. Taking over as common carrier may sound good, but it is not wise. It is likely to lead to a costly and lengthy legal battle and potential for opposition at the federal level, which may indeed risk both building the trail and critical position on our corridor ID program.
Thank you.
Speaking to item 7 on the consent agenda, James Helmer, Ben Lomond. I think it's a wise move to decommission the call boxes in Santa Cruz County, and you may want to take a look at your 2050 regional transportation plan that shows photographs of those call boxes, and you may want to delete those photos.
Thank you. Anybody? I'm going to go out to the public online.
James Wheeler.
Okay, I'm unmuted. We have questions. I want to hear a public discussion of item 8. That's why I requested it be removed from the consent agenda. Here are some questions. What is the near-term purpose of the railroad subsidiary? What immediate next steps are planned for this new RTC alter ego? The explanations in the staff report are vague and seemingly disingenuous. If this is the sine qua non, then for what end purpose? Whether acting as a non-governmental subsidiary or otherwise, the RTC cannot design, build, and operate a public rail transit system. The RTC states that railroad operations are a long-term goal. However, this goal exceeds the RTC's proper function and capabilities. That responsibility will have to belong to a special rail transit district like SMART. This new subsidiary is not meant for that purpose. Then what is it for? Why is it needed now?
Jack Brown.
Hi, Jack Brown, Aptos. I wanted to speak on item 5, the minutes from the BAC. It's a small error. It was listed that Matt Farrell was the vice chair. The vice chair is actually Matt Miller from Ecology Action. Tried to send in that update, but it didn't seem to make it into the agenda packet. Also on agenda 8, there was an item handout that was included in my letter, which goes into detail of why this is a great idea. I won't reiterate that, but just to downplay what Mr. Weller had said, there are actually quite a few examples of subsidiaries set up as nonprofits, such as the McCreary County Heritage Foundation, the Indiana Railway Museum, Association of American Railroads, and Conrail, all subsidiaries of the, along with the ownership of the rail corridor. So anyways, thank you. Thank you for your service and appreciate the time to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no other speakers.
We'll close that up, bring it back to the commission for direction. Commissioner Hurst?
We pull item 8.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be pulled. That item for a separate, conversation and motion after any other comments on 10 items? Commissioner Lenore?
Commissioners, will you please use your mics? Folks on Zoom are unable to hear you.
I'll move the consent agenda as amended.
It's been moved in second. Any other comments? No.
I do have a comment.
Go ahead.
Regarding item 7, while I agree with taking out obsolete technology in terms of our call boxes, I would like to point out, and maybe this is a comment really for Caltrans, that there are several areas near the Pajaro River where you cannot get a connection on a cell phone. And I feel like that's a dangerous area. I mean, I travel that stretch of road every day for years, and I do a lot of business on my phone as I'm driving, and my calls drop consistently in multiple spots right around right before the Pajaro River, where the road dips very low. So if we could ensure that people can get a cell phone connection through that stretch, I think I would feel better about the decommissioning of call boxes. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So unfortunately, Caltrans doesn't have responsibility over the cell phone. And so that is not something that we would be able to
Thank you.
guarantee.
Thank you
that,
for pointing that out. I didn't know that. Somebody
the,
told me it was Caltrans, so
no, it's
maybe
it's
it's
the
county
service providers.
Service providers.
Service providers, Verizon, T-Mobile, that's their coverage and that's their area of responsibility.
Okay, it needs to be fixed and corrected. We need greater connectivity for Mid and South County through that area. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just say, a brief comment, once this item passes, Antonio Rivas will be coming back at the advisory committee. So thank you for his service. And with that, roll call.
Commissioner, you don't need a roll call today. None of the commissioners are online.
Okay. So everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any noes? No? The motion passes. Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to item number 8. Approving, authorizing the executive director to advance common carrier filing through formation of the RTC subsidiary and to amend the contract with Rail Pros.
Commissioner Montesino, I have to recuse myself, right?
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Downey. Stop.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. Bella Cressman, Real Property Specialist, and I'll be speaking to item 8 on today's agenda. This is a continuation of the directive from the Commission at the February meeting to become the common carrier for the branch line to both better manage the line and to advance the region's vision and priorities for implementation of transportation projects along the branch line and corridor. And so staff therefore recommend that the Commission authorize the Executive Director to take the necessary administrative steps to form the recommended 501c4 nonprofit, an entity to be the subsidiary to serve as the common carrier for the branch line, as well as adopt a resolution to authorize an amendment to contract TP 206101 with Rail Pros to add additional funding for completion of work that is necessary to better manage the line. And I'm happy to answer any questions regarding this item. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Please.
Thank you for the overview. Can you just, I understand we have a special meeting scheduled for a couple weeks from now. Can you just outline what will come before the commission at that time and what you'll be asking from us?
Sure. We do have a special meeting scheduled for March 19th. And in this written staff report, there are several things that we are working on. Between now and then, we will be choosing a name, preparing corporation documents, and then bringing that to a special commission meeting on March 19th to form the entity by resolution. Subsequent to that, we will have the first meeting of the subsidiary entity on April 2nd. And there's various steps, a very detailed breakdown of all of the necessary steps in the staff report that I'd like to reference. So did that answer your question effectively?
Yeah, so prior to that meeting, all of the related documents or appropriate incorporation documents and I guess draft bylaws, will those be made public within like the 72 hours prior? So there'll be an opportunity for us to review those and ask questions and have a discussion at that meeting.
Correct. Just like all of our meetings, we have the materials posted ahead of time. We try to give you guys as much time as we possibly can. So we aim for at least a week. So yes, the week before the April 2nd meeting and the week before the March 19th meeting, that information will be available.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarity. I saw this item on the consent agenda, but understood really that upcoming meeting is a place for discussion about what's being proposed and look forward to that meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Commissioner Healy.
You on this?
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Hurst.
Well, thank you so much, Chair. You know, I'm having a little trouble hearing with the fan going off behind me and the speakers, so I may have not caught the answers. But what is going to be the duties of this new nonprofit corporation that RTC is going to have some control over, but it's going to be indirect? And I know that these are sometimes, this kind of organization is used to form a museum or an antique rail yard or something like that. And that's certainly not what we need. And, you know, I'm not sure that the STB, the Surface Transportation Board, if this has been run by them, or what kind of criteria will we have to meet to satisfy their need? And is this group capable of doing the duties of common carrier? I would further ask them, there's two questions here in this agenda item, and they appear to be separate to me, Rail Pros and the common carrier creation of a nonprofit. Can we separate those? And because they seem to be two different items. Rail Pro and their duties and responsibilities, and the other item being the advanced to common carrier status. Two different things.
Commissioner Alternate Hurst, good morning. We consolidated this item because the scope of work for Rail Pros is very relative to the action of becoming the common carrier. And for simplicity and efficiency, we tend to consolidate items as best as we can to save paper and time, staff time. So they're very connected.
You say they're one and the same, or they will be one and the same.
They're very interrelated, so we consolidated them into one staff report.
Thank you for that clarification. I couldn't gather that by reading what we had.
Commissioner Kelly.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it does seem to me that this is a complicated concept. It's a necessary concept if we're going to be continuing to move forward. It's got a lot of complicated pieces to it that are interrelated and so on. I wonder if it might be useful, given that the direction, as I understand it, is for our staff to go forward, complete a number of tasks, come back to the body. The body then will have an opportunity at least once, maybe more, depending upon what is in front of us, to make any course corrections or adjustments as the commission deems appropriate. I wonder if it might be helpful, Mr. Chairman, if you would designate yourself and perhaps Supervisor Koenig and myself to, during the interim period while this is being developed, to work on behalf of the commissioners with our staff, because this is such a new and critically important piece, and seems to me every step in it is a first instance for us as a commission, and that might give us perhaps a better product for the commission when it comes back for final adoptions and votes. Would you object to that, sir?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We could then, when we get to a motion on this item, if that could be included in the motion, I would appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Schifrin.
Yes, I appreciate the fact that this is going to be put off for a final decision till the 19th. I have no objection to having a subcommittee working with staff on it. But I do think it might make sense to respond to some of the questions that were raised about the item. One of them, so I have a couple of questions for staff. There seems to be some concern about why the subsidiary is going to be a nonprofit with a certain number that I've forgotten, which is a certain kind of nonprofit. Could you explain why the choice was made to use that kind of a nonprofit?
Yes, Chair, if I may, I'll respond to that. So for the commission's benefit, staff looked at various options, and I will start off this discussion by saying the creation of a subsidiary entity was one that was recommended by the Commission's Railway Council for very specific reasons. The Commission's Railway Council was made the commission aware, made the staff aware that when you are serving as an operating or non-operating common carrier, you are subject to additional federal regulations that come into play. And when you're operating as a railroad, if you truly are operating as a railroad, then you may be subject to federal railroad retirement laws and other federal laws that apply to railroads. And so Mr. Hockey advised the commission and staff that there should be a separate entity. This is a common practice with railroads. They'll create a subsidiary entity. The second part of it is that when you have a subsidiary entity, you can structure the documents so that the liability issues that are associated with any corporate entity are associated with that entity and not the RTC as a commission. And so those were two of the factors that went into the suggestion that we create a separate entity. With regards to the form of the corporate entity, we looked at a couple of different forms. You could do it, and it's been done this way in California, as a JPA, Joint Powers Authority, but that requires two public agencies to come together to operate it together, where they have a common set of authorities. So they both have to be able to operate facilities such as railroads. The alternative way is to create a corporation, a corporate entity that would be one that would be able to operate the railroad system. And we looked at the various forms of nonprofit, and there are examples across the United States of nonprofit entities that work in the railroad space and that do work like this. And we've again consulted with Mr. Hockey. And the vehicle or the form that we identified was what's referred to as a 501c4. Most of us are very familiar with 501c3s, which are charitable organizations. 501c4s are nonprofit organizations or nonprofit corporations. They are allowed to manage and operate, for instance, infrastructure such as railroads, and they're operated and run by a board. And so if the commission were to create the board, the commission could designate itself as the board. You would be sitting as a different entity. Those of you who sit on city councils or the county board of supervisors, you're well aware that you sometimes sit with different hats and you manage different entities. And a 501c4 would be a different entity. The commission could create that entity with itself as the board of directors. And so the management of the board, the management of the railway right away would still be under the exclusive control of this new corporation, which would be composed of members of the RTC board, if that's what you choose to do in terms of structuring it. And a 501c4 is a vehicle that allows you to operate infrastructure such as railroads. So it accomplishes both of those tasks.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. My second question has to do with the Brown Act. My understanding is that the subsidiary would be subject to the Brown Act. Is that the case?
That is correct, because they would be expending public funds. And if the commission were to direct us to move forward to prepare all of the documents, we would incorporate that requirement into the articles of incorporation of the bylaws of the new entity.
And finally, I wanted to respond to the concern that the commission's role would be indirect in the operation of the subsidiary. And as you said, that's not necessarily the case. And in fact, I would assume would not be the case in this situation where the board or the commission would then become the board of the corporation. So in fact, as I see it, this is a way to reduce liability and save money in carrying out the commission's role under Measure D, and it's moving forward with the rail project in a way that is more efficient and legally and financially an improvement. So I just want to be clear that I think the intent, staff's intent, and it's certainly my intent, is that if the commission does decide to set up the subsidiary, which I think is a positive step, the commission will be the board. The commission staff will be contracted with the subsidiary to do the staff work for the subsidiary. So essentially, all we're really doing is setting up a legal entity to protect us financially and from various forms of liability. Is that not?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
With that, any other commissioners have questions? Seeing none, I'm going to go out to the public. This is opportunity for the public to weigh on this item. 8.
One question that we raised, which hasn't been answered to date, is the transparency of donations that would be reported to this 501c4. Currently, 501c3s have to report donations, but 501c4s are exempt from that requirement of reporting donations.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Seeing none here, anybody online?
Yes, we currently have 3 hands up. James Wheeler.
Yes. The question is, what is this for? I understand that it's possible. I understand that it might protect against some contingent general liability. Why is it needed now? Is its only purpose to serve the commercial demand for freight rail south of milepost 3? That is already in place. Why change the status quo? If it's not about maintaining that, then what's the real purpose? We must all recognize that the RTC, whether acting as itself or as an alter ego, is not going to design, build, and operate a railroad, far less a passenger rail transit system. That's not what the RTC does. So eventually, you're going to have not a nonprofit corporation, but a special rail transit district in order to carry out that project. So in the interim, what's the point?
Jack Brown.
Hi, Jack Brown, Aptos. Again, just want to reiterate everything is excellent as far as doing this. I highly support you moving forward with it. I also agree with Matt Farrell. There should be full transparency of any donations that come in, but I believe that would be done regardless. Even though 501c3s claim that they have transparency, some hide behind fiscal sponsors such as Ford behind social good, where we don't see who their real sponsors are, but that's another topic. But anyways, fully support this. Let's have a cooperative common carrier, not like Progressive and unfortunately Roaring Camp, who has went on alongside them. Hopefully Roaring Camp will come along and support as well, and that we can have a nice positive relationship with our common carrier in the future. Thank you.
You.
Jean Brockelbank.
Hi, commissioners and staff. This was extremely informative and interesting to me. I'm understanding the reason for this, and this was very helpful. I'm so glad I was in attendance today because I learned a lot. I fully support moving forward with this, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was our last speaker.
We'll close that up and bring back to the commission for direction or action. Commissioner Hurst.
I want to make sure I understand this a little better. We're shifting financial responsibility or liability, but we're still going to be in control. Is that what I'm hearing?
From a practical standpoint, the funding for the new entity would have to come either from the revenues off the railway itself, or in all likelihood from RTC, as the entity that has the funding sources. We're not anticipating any donations. So to the specific question was just asked, if the commission identifies itself as the board of this new corporation, then you would have control over the corporation and its expenditures and its revenue, just like you do now, large to the right of way, except that you've contracted it out to Progressive Rail. That's the math.
And if we don't enter into this, what's the alternatives?
Well, so the commission's prior direction to authorize the termination of Progressive Rail's ACL right now does require that there be a replacement common carrier, a railroad operator, in particular for the area of Watsonville, where there is service right now. And so this is a process to allow the RTC to be either an operating or non-operating common carrier. And if you're in that role, then you could contract those services out similar to what Progressive is doing right now with Roaring Camp, or you could enter into a new ACL just for the portion of the line that is operating right now through milepost 3.
Thank you. I think I understand that a little bit better. Let's follow up with the rest of this resolution. Something about rail pros. Connect the dots for me with rail pros.
Bella Cressman, our real property specialist, can fill in the details.
Speak a little louder if you could, please.
Oh, definitely. Yes, Rail Pros is our on-call real property services consultant, and they specialize in rail particularly. They're really knowledgeable about, their requirements for operating a railroad. So we lean on them for, helping inform our kind of rail expertise when we need that. And so part of, the work that they have under their current contract scope is to develop safety plans as well as like asset inventory work. And so the idea is that with at the approval of the commission, we'll add additional funds to their contract so that they can perform some of this work for the operational area of the rail line so that staff are better informed and the commission as well about the operational area of the rail that we will be taking on as common carrier, including regulatory inspections, how frequent those need to occur, what the current condition of the line is, and all the other rail assets and infrastructure in the Watsonville area.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I don't want those shippers to be left behind. But I'm still kind of confused about how these things. Have you had some conversations with Rail Pros about this concept of the separate corporation being formed and their engagement with it?
I don't think that's really in the scope of the work that they'll be performing.
Staff has had conversations, however, with the RTC's Railway Council about the structure of this, and that's what's guiding the recommendations that are coming forward to the commission.
Thank you.
I would move the staff recommendation.
Second. Who we add? The ad hoc committee?
With the added language regarding the subcommittee. And I would, if it's been seconded, I would like to ask staff to respond to the concern about should this entity ever receive donations, which I'd like to see to believe, would that be public information?
That would be public information.
Thank you.
Yeah, any funding would have to be publicly reported. This new corporation would be subject to annual audit requirements and whatnot. And so the finances of this corporation would be public, similar to the finances of the RTC, right?
Commissioner.
So Rail Pro, they would have a seat at the table too when the 501c meets, right? Is that they're gonna be part of the, no? They just advise us?
So Commissioner Lenore, I'll answer that, Bella. But Rail Pros is really our technical support for staff, and we're proposing that the RTC staff act as service staff to this new entity. So they will still be available as technical support as we go through this process, but they're not directly involved with this subsidiary that we're proposing.
Okay, thank you. That's clear now. Thank you.
With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any noes? We got one no. Any abstentions? None? Passes. So thank you. We'll move on to commissioner's report. Any commissioner's report? Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to welcome you all to our little cabin in the woods here in Scotts Valley, known as our council chambers, and just proud to have you here. Hopefully you have the opportunity to explore the area a little bit, see some of our transportation needs that are here. Also too, just wanted to comment quickly on the bridge ribbon cutting that we did, the Capitola Avenue, and I just want to take the opportunity to thank staff for that. I know they worked hard to make that happen. And again, there's another example of where we can be proud of the work that is happening here. We are delivering projects and projects that are meaningful for our community. It was great to hear the members of the community who were present at that ribbon cutting and how much this meant for them and how much this alleviated their transportation problems. In fact, there was even some people there who live near the Whale Bridge, And they spoke to that as well. So the projects that we are delivering right now are making a meaningful difference to the lives of the people in our community. And I just want to take a minute to congratulate all of you commissioners for pushing this forward, but also for the staff that's making it happen. So that's it for my committee.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder, because I think we don't celebrate enough, but all the progress that we've made on some of these projects. So thank you for that reminder. Anybody else? Commissioner Hurst?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't give a traffic report today. The backup seems to occur even further than it has in the past. It's about the top of Vista Point now, about the viewpoint of the Pajaro Valley. So, the observation I made is that it took about an hour to get here, and I forget how many miles it is, but it was really pretty congested until we started running into those great projects that have been accomplished, and the traffic tends to smooth out a little bit there. And so there is success and there is progress being made, and we need to extend that progress a little bit further to the south and to try and figure out other ways to alleviate the congestion and the backlogs. And that's kind of the duty of the commission, at least to be aware of those things and investigate those things. So the traffic report has been completed, and that's all for my report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, seeing no other commissioners, Commissioner Downing.
Thank you. I also wanted to thank staff for the Capitola Bridge ceremony. It was really lovely. Everything Steve said. Plus, what I noticed is that lots of people were walking by that had no idea what was going on because they're just happy to be back on the bridge. And I really like seeing all the pedestrian and cycling improvements there. I also wanted to thank Commissioner DeSerpa for her town hall meeting recently on the county strategic plan. And I realize that's a separate agency from here, but walking around reading what people wrote about that plan, transportation was everywhere. So I just want to remind our commission that even though we're made up of county and city representative, this body takes care of getting people where they want to go. So thank you.
Thank you for that report. And so we're moving on to the director's report.
Thank you, Chair Montesino. Just give a few seconds to get my director's report PowerPoint up. And I do have a short one today. I'm going to keep the positive vibes going here. Starting with a big, next slide. Thank you to our general counsel. On the consent agenda, we awarded a contract, renewal contract for Redwood Public Law. And I just, Steve's been a great partner and just wanted to thank you for your work. And we've seen a lot of you lately, which may or may not be a good thing, but but we just want to thank you for your steadiness and leadership for the commission and great advice through some pretty significant organizational changes and leadership changes that we've had. And Steve has been through it all. He's been with us since 2019. And we had a process because the RTC likes to make sure that we're getting the best services at a competitive price. We periodically reprocure ongoing services. And through this process, we had commissioners DeSerpa, Clark, and Commission Alternate Schifrin on the selection panel, as well as staff. And what we found was that we do currently have the best in the business. And so we should all be thankful for Steve Mattis's support and expertise for our commission. I just want to say thank you, Steve. Next slide. We put out a public survey recently to provide input on what we should name our new rail subsidiary. So we're obviously in the process of creating this subsidiary to manage the freight property. And because we're a public agency and we serve the public, we always like to get the public's input on things when we can. So we're asking for public input on the name through a Survey Monkey that we put out. You can scan the QR code on the screen or visit our website. And we encourage all of you to give your input on what we name this new subsidiary. And the deadline to provide input is March 16th. Next slide. We are planning to begin construction on a Capitola Bluff fencing project along Park Avenue in Capitola later this month. This project will install a split rail fence along the coastal side of the branch line adjacent to Park Avenue in Capitola. The fencing is being constructed to improve public safety in an area where the coastal bluff has been increasingly unstable due to erosion. So just a heads up that construction is going to be starting in the next few weeks. Next slide. And finally, I wanted to share some photos from our celebration that we had on February 26th. We had the official ribbon cutting ceremony of the Capitola Avenue overcrossing. This is the first completed component of the second phase of the Highway 1 multimodal improvements between Bay Avenue and Porter Street interchange and the State Park Drive interchange. Approximately 80 people came out to celebrate. It was very exciting, good vibes out there. We had many of you in attendance, so I want to thank all of you who are there. We received recognition from Congressman Jimmy Panetta's office, Senator Alex Padilla, and Assemblymember Don Addis's offices as well. And I'll pass those around. Here's our hardware that we got, good office decorations that we'll have. This one is from Alex Padilla. You pass that. We've got a certificate of special congressional recognition from Congressman Jimmy Panetta. And finally, from Don Addis, a certificate of recognition from the Assembly. So just want to show those off. Okay, the new Capitola Avenue overcrossing replaces the aging former structure and provides significantly enhanced bicycle and pedestrian facilities. It also included a railing. If you recall, the last bridge, the old bridge, didn't have a safety railing and it was pretty sketchy. Anyway, so much improved. It's an accessible crossing for people walking and biking while maintaining the vehicle access across the highway, the Croissant connection, for those who are there. It improves connectivity between the so-called drive, multimodal improvements that the county completed to the north, and then the future coastal rail trail segments to the south, which will link neighborhoods, schools, parks, beaches, transit, and nearby commercial centers. So thank you all who attended, and just want to share the good vibes, and that concludes my director's report. I'm here for questions, if any.
Thank you. And I just want to get, also recognize that we do have the best council. I've been missions, councils, and, your expertise has really guided us throughout these years. And, and you make it simple enough to understand. And that's a challenge coming from, because I've seen, all this legal jumbo is like, no, like bring it down to my level, so I can understand. So you're really good at that. So just thank you for your services.
Thank you, Chair Montesino, and thank you, commissioners, for the continued support. I and my team really look forward to continuing to work.
Thank you. Are there any other commissioners? Seeing none, I'll move on to the public. Anybody from the public like to weigh in this item? Director's report. Seeing none here. Anybody online?
We have no speakers.
We'll move on to Caltrans report.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Brandy Ryder, Deputy District Director for Planning and Modal Programs for Caltrans. I do have a couple of announcements. The first is in the February RTC board meeting, our Caltrans representative had heard a public comment regarding the Highway 9 shoulders being closed, resulting in people walking in the travel lanes. The lack of construction signage, and Commissioner Martinez had asked, following the public comment, asked what could be done to make the Felton Safety Project construction area easier for daytime commuters. So I want to read into the record a response that we put together. I think it may have already been shared with some of the board members, but I do want to officially read it into the record. So after looking into the request, we wish to report that the current construction on Highway 9 is for utility relocations by PG&E in preparation for the sidewalk safety project's construction, which is not targeted to begin until April. The contractor has removed the cones in the shoulder area for the steel plate signage and steel plates on Friday, February 13th. Most shoulder and/or lane closures will occur at night, and signage appropriately will be placed. However, in areas adjacent to the residences, we may allow daytime closures to mitigate the issue with noise at night if the traffic impacts are manageable. Daytime closures will be mindful of the San Lorenzo Valley School Complex bell schedule, so between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. And Caltrans will work with the contractor to follow our standards with temporary traffic control during the utility relocation work. Also, given the recent comments about school kids traversing work areas along Highway 9, while making their way to the school complex, we are re-examining the traffic handling plans for the sidewalk safety project and are exploring ways to enhance the pedestrian experience before project construction begins around April. So we just wanted to officially respond, put that on the record. We would be happy to follow up with any questions on that as well. So just another update, we have the speed limit signs have been installed and the new speed limits along Highway 9 are complete, along with the emergency drainage project that was at Boulder Creek that had been using a temporary signal for reversing traffic. However, in the upcoming months, there'll be a flurry of projects along Highway 9, including a non-emergency spot location for drainage work and 2 bridge replacements north of Boulder Creek. The bridge replacements over the San Lorenzo River Bridge near Riverdale and over the Kings Creek near Pool Drive will both be using temporary signals for reversing traffic. We anticipate that the temporary signals to be operating around April. A fact sheet of all of the projects in the San Lorenzo Valley can be found on our district website. There are quite a few, and this particular fact sheet, we'll be happy to share the link and some information, but it's a very good graphical depiction of timelines as well as where the projects are located from that standpoint. So that's all I have today for updates. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Hurst?
Maybe not a question, but certainly a big thanks to Caltrans for all their work in the Pajaro Valley. The 152 Main Street sidewalk collapse is being repaired as we speak, and I want to thank the Cruz and the management for that. Lots of work being done on 129 and Highway 1 in the Pajaro Valley as well. And so thank you, Caltrans.
Commissioner Martinez? Benson?
Thank you for the report back. I appreciate your responsiveness to the concerns that came up last month. And I appreciate the reference to the fact sheet. I just pulled it up and it's very informative. There are a lot of really important projects going on. Sometimes it's hard to communicate with our public about everything. So really having a single source of information is important. And so thank you for your communication, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Commissioner Jensen?
Yeah, I was wondering if there's any update on the Bay Porter ramp closures coming up.
You know, I may have to follow up with you on that one.
Commissioner Downing?
Wonder if you could give us some information about what's going on between Soquel Drive and 41st on the southbound side. It closed the auxiliary lanes periodically. I wondered what kind of work was being done there right now.
I'll follow up with you as well.
With that, any other commissioners? Seeing none, I'll move out to the public. Anybody from the public like to weigh in the Caltrans report?
Jim Helmer, Ben Lomond, I'd like to thank Caltrans for following up on that request for pedestrian safety. Also regarding the speed limits on Highway 9, Your commission requested speed limit reductions 2 years ago in downtown Ben Lomond, downtown Felton, and downtown Brookdale. The only location that received the speed limit reduction was downtown Ben Lomond, and we're grateful for that. But I do think Felton and Brookdale should have gone to a prima facie 25 miles per hour as requested. Also, the early reports were that Highway 9 would be posted as 30 miles per hour maximum all the way from Felton to Boulder Creek, about 6 miles. But late in the game, there was a change by Caltrans. So the speed limit is increased to 35 miles per hour from Highlands Park to downtown Ben Lomond. So out of all of the 30 miles per hour consistent zoning, we have a short section that's 35. Thank you.
Thank you. See no one else? Anybody online?
We have no speakers.
With that, I'm gonna bring it back and move on to 23, request for earmarks to fund environmental component of the zero emission passenger rail and trail project. Staff,
Chair, I'll be recusing myself for the item.
thank you.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. This is Max Friedman, Transportation Planner of your staff. Today, I will be giving a short presentation on our request for authorization to pursue state and federal funding opportunities to support the environmental phase of the Zero Emission Passenger Rail and Trail Project, otherwise known as ZEPERT. For context, the Commission accepted the ZEPERT project concept report in December of 2025, and the next phase of the project is preliminary engineering and environmental analysis. While the Commission has already committed $1 million through future state transportation improvement program shares, there is currently a $15 million funding gap, and work on this phase is on hold until additional funding is secured. A key challenge here is that there are very few competitive grant programs available at the state and federal level to fund pre-construction activities like environmental review. Typically what we see is state and federal funds that go towards construction rail projects. And so our proposed approach to this is recommending pursuing targeted funding opportunities at both the state and federal level. At the federal level, this includes community project funding, or commonly known as earmarks, which allow members of Congress to directly fund specific local projects through the federal budget. Staff is proposing to submit requests through Senator Schiff, Senator Padilla, and Representative Panetta. Staff also recommends pursuing funding through the Federal Railroad Administration's Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Program, also known as CRISI for short, which in addition to construction supports rail planning and pre-construction activities. The notice of funding for this opportunity is expected to come out sometime in 2026. So why does this matter? Securing this funding is critical to closing the current funding gap and will reduce the need for local regional funding in the near term to advance the environmental review of the ZEPERT project. So in summary, staff is requesting authorization to pursue federal earmark and grant opportunities and funds from the state budget. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner, questions? Commissioner Hurst.
Thank you very much. I see that our Congressman Leon Panetta is mentioned in here, and as well as some other dignitaries. The congressperson from the Pajaro Valley, where the line does go through, is it possible to reach out to her as well? She might get on board with this. Zoe Lofgren?
Yeah, so this was accidentally left out of the staff report, but we would like to also reach out to
But we don't want the Pajaro Valley to be left out, and so
Yeah.
thank you for acknowledging that, and hopefully there'll be some contact with her, and we're glad to set something up with her as well. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Commissioner Keeley? You
Okay. Just a couple questions on the EIR that we want to fund on this. Is there a shelf life on this EIR. For instance, let's say we get partial funding, or we get all of the funding for it now, but we don't have funds to actually build the railroad for, X number of years, or the trail. Is there a shelf life to that? And are we going to be back at the table asking again for funding to maybe amend this report?
Max, I can answer that if that's more of a project delivery question. Yes, so when environmental documents are prepared, if they sit for too long without the project actually advancing, they could go stale. So what's very typical if projects are delayed is to kind of refresh that environmental work. For example, there's biological studies and different types of technical studies that are done as part of the EIR process that essentially if a period of time goes on, we just have to reconfirm that nothing has changed, and if anything has changed, that we adequately study what the potential impacts could be and kind of recertify the environmental work that was done prior.
And is there a typical number of years we can sort of expect this to last? I imagine it's somewhere below the shelf life of a Hostess Twinkie, but
I'm not aware of any specific time frame. So
and then finally on this too. So any EIR report that we would do on this, I would assume would be applicable to both if we pursued the separate project or if we pursued an interim trail, that it would be applicable in both situations, depending on which way we can go on this.
the EIR work would be specific to the zero emission passenger rail and trail project. So it would be for the long-term passenger rail with adjacent trail or
the ultimate configuration.
Right.
Okay. It's helpful. Thank you.
Commissioner King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, one of the reasons to, I think, adopt this and move on it is that this commission has made a decision that we are dealing honorably with both getting a really good trail and at least pursuing whether or not rail makes sense for our community. That part is highly debatable, understood that it's highly debatable. But a way to move towards resolution of whether it is a good idea or not a good idea, we know that we don't have a project until we complete the environmental work. We need the project in order to then seek state and federal capital funding. That needs to happen before we then can know what the delta is that we would be asking local voters to pay for as the local share of costs for the capital outlay. And then given that there is essentially in the current world order, no O&M money from the state and feds, what that number is as well. All of that backs us up to saying we need an EIR in order for good faith efforts to move forward. That is the next thing we need to do. And so I think in keeping with what this commission did late last year and early this year, that this is the right set of steps to take. We are very fortunate, I think, that our state senator is an enormously effective member of the California State Senate and has the gavel in his hand as chair of the Senate Budget and Fiscal Affairs Committee. That is not to say that $15 million member requests, because they call those member requests in the legislature as opposed to earmarks in Congress. That doesn't mean that our very powerful and effective state senator is going to say, give me $15 million, and that gets handed to him and he hands it to us. The senator is going to have a very long list of requests, not only from his Senate district, but also from throughout the state of California. But if we don't ask, we won't get. And there is no other apparent source of funding for us if we are to continue our good faith work with each other on this. So I would hope that we would authorize the RTC to go forward and make this application or this request. It's not an application. Make this request to the senator. I do think that folks have raised prior to the meeting some good questions about what it means to get all or some of that money. And if it's some of that money, how long will we hold on to that money while we seek the balance of the funding for the EIR? And should none of that happen, what would we do with some funds that we received? I think those are fair questions to ask. So again, Mr. Chairman, if unless you would have an objection or anyone else would have an objection, perhaps again, sort of spreading this out among the interests represented on this commission, that a county supervisor, a mayor, and you, perhaps we could work with the staff on this application. We are going to be in Sacramento next week, and we will be seeing not only the senator, but other budgeteers in both the Assembly and the Senate, as well as the executive branch. And I wonder if we could have the confidence of the commission that the three of us could work with the executive director to get that request. This is the way it's worded here is authorization to make the request. But I will tell you, having been on the other side of that request process for a few years, there is a form that takes. There's good ways to ask it, not good ways to ask it. If you don't mind, maybe Supervisor Koenig and you and I can work with our staff, because we're going to be up there in Sacramento if we could get that. So when we get to a motion on this, sir, if we could add that language, that would be appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other commissioner?
And I just, it's not necessarily a form of a question, but just I'll go ahead and get my comments out on this. And I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge some of the other concerns that are there. Those concerns come from either the municipalities or the county that we represent. As a matter of practice, I have a little heartburn with us competing with those entities for, lack of a better term, earmark funding. I know that there are significant and substantial requests that are going to be made by each of our entities that we represent for very important needs. We're not exactly flush with cash here in this county and in our cities. And I know that there are very important needs, very important public safety needs that are going to be asked for. So I just want to acknowledge that in general, I dislike a practice of this board competing for local dollars in such a limited pool. I understand the need of it, and I certainly understand. Commissioner Keeley, thank you so much for that explanation. I think it's important to understand those as to why we would be in that position. And so my concern goes specifically towards the earmark dollars. The CRISI funding, and I also want to applaud you for bringing forward the request for special allotment as well, which may not affect our municipalities so directly. But I just want to acknowledge that. I know that that concern is out there, but I also understand there is a pressing need. And if we are serious about moving forward with this project, then it's a necessity. It's the position we find ourselves. Thank you, Commissioner Keeley.
Commissioner Serpa? Benson.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to echo Commissioner Clark's comment with the competing local needs. Like in Santa Clara County, we have the radio ring project is projected between $5 and $6 million of an ask, and just competing for those things is just something that, as elected official, we're supposed to be representing our local constituents, and at the same time sitting on this commission is very important. Speaking of just the Capitola, we have a earmark ask for a cliff resiliency project that we have a cliff that has a main artery road that is slipping. And so it's just very difficult to move through looking at these and wearing multiple different hats and looking at the representation of each different issue. And just we need to be very sensitive to the competition that we're creating. But I do, again, appreciate Commissioner Keeley's comments and sure as on the record for the local concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner DeSerbo.
Thank you. Judging from the sheer number of requests for letters of support that I'm getting in my office, there's a lot of entities going for these types of earmarks or special consideration. But that's not what I wanted to ask. So, Sarah, I don't know if this is a question for you or for Max. Thank you, Max, for being up here today. But in terms of this EIR, what are some of the information that we would likely be getting back? I'm guessing trees, wetlands, crumbling cliffs. Could you say more about like what this will show?
Sure.
Because 15 million is just, well, the other question I have, let me just say this too, is that this is so expensive. Like, what is the total price for the report in general? I mean, I know we can't pinpoint it, but.
Sure. So first, what are we going to get out of this deliverable? What's the final deliverable? What information will it show? As you recall, through a very extensive process, we developed a project concept. We would continue the engineering process for that project concept and further refine the engineering side of things. That then sets a footprint, then you can study kind of what the environmental potential impacts would be of building this project. And all of that information would be it would be a very public process. There would be, an environmental review period, getting comments, and then it would result in certification of an EIR and approval of a project. In the staff report, there's a schedule that lays out kind of the steps from here to operations of what needs to happen, right? One of the crucial pieces is approval of a project. So that would be essentially the final deliverable is a project that you could then take. We'll know much more information about, refined cost estimates, refinements of the design and what it means, all the environmental information. And then we could pursue the next steps, which would be to secure a funding source, a local dedicated funding source, and likely in the form of a ballot measure. So, why is it so expensive? Because it's a big project. It's an ambitious project. It's 22 miles long with 9 stations. It's huge. So there's a lot of ground to cover. There's a lot of, 22 miles of just one technical study. I mean, could be easily $1 million of work. So because it's such a large project, that's why the environmental work and the engineering work is pretty sizable. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thank you. And there's no guarantee we would receive this earmark or this amount of money anyway.
We're competing.
We are
always competing for money.
Yeah.
And the other thing to note is, even if we ask for $15 million, it's not truly realistic to expect to receive it all in one go. So we might get partial, pennies from here and there, and we'll have to take it one day at a time and try to cobble up enough money to do some productive work on the EIR. So that's all TBD, depending on how much money we're awarded, if any. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Martinez.
Thank you for the overview and the discussion that the commission is having. I think it's very important. As a commission, we made the decision that we didn't want to compete with our local resources, our Measure D dollars, our consolidated grant application for the EIR, which means we have to seek alternative funding. And so this is a route to bring state or federal dollars into this community to get this next phase of this long-term project done. So I'm very supportive of this. I'm hoping it's successful, even if it's partially funded, because it'll help us continue to make project on the long-term goal process, progress on the long-term goals without dipping into our valuable local resources for our local roads and our local projects. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. What has been voiced, I just want to repeat, which is it is absolutely the season of these kinds of earmark requests. When I'm not in fun meetings like this one, I'm at my desk frantically signing letters. Dear Congressman Panetta, can we please have money for this? Can we please have money for that? And same with Senator Padilla, Senator Schiff, State Senator Laird. There are so many requests out there and so many, as has also been said, so many urgent projects. I mean, things like funding for the Watsonville Hospital to keep them open, funding for a new radio system that's going to allow our sheriff and fire agencies and even Metro to continue to communicate during emergencies. We have a funding request in for Santa Cruz Metro to build the South County operations and maintenance facility so that our buses can be more efficient. They can actually start out in South County rather than having to spend 30 to 40 minutes deadheading, which is driving a bus without any passengers so they can start routes in South County. So when we finally then come to this agency, hey, RTC, what project do you want to uplift? And it's a little dumbfounding to me that we would say, well, we've just completed this $9 million study. It told us that we could build this rail system for a mere $15,000 per every man, woman, and child in Santa Cruz County, even though only 1 in 100 people is going to ride it. But we want to do another study, $15 million. This one is, so it's going to be extra good. And it's going to be great. We may have to spend 1.5% additional sales tax, 2.25%. We haven't figured out what the heck we're going to do in front of the boardwalk. In fact, peer agencies, when we asked them about this, folks from SMART and VTA, they said, you know what, give up on that section, just stop at Seabright. It's probably going to be easier for you. We really want to study that. Could you please give us some money for this? It's bewildering that's the project we'd uplift instead of other trail segments, the Capitola Trestle, a key link in the work that we're already doing. All that said, it's true what Commissioner and Mayor Keeley has said, that the plan has always been that we would put our best foot forward and ask for these earmarks, ask for this money to continue the work. And so I'm willing to put the best faith effort towards this. The one thing I want to address, is the possibility and my concern that we could end up with just part of the money. We could, after years of asking and pursuing this, end up with, say, 5 million out of the 15 million needed, or 8 million, not enough to actually get it done. And so when it comes, I'd like to see that we reserve some options, and that in our asks we specify that if we're not able to get all the money needed for the rail and trail EIR, that we would also give ourselves the opportunity to repurpose those funds for trail EIRs, whether that's segments 13 through 20 or the Capitola Trestle or other ways to still keep that money, not have to give it back. I mean, just as we're looking at with the ATP grants right now, we can see that's when you have to give money back, it's not only sad because you don't have the money, but it also is a hit to our reputation. So I think giving ourselves some optionality there and being able to use the money that is given to us by spending it on trail EIRs, if the rail portion doesn't work out, would be good. And so when it comes time for discussing deliberating motions, I'm plan on introducing something like that.
Sure.
Talk about an EIR. I did teach classes for a long time on the California Environmental Quality Act. So I think it may be helpful to commissioners to have a little bit more background on what an EIR is. I thought it was a good question to ask, what is in an EIR? under the California Environmental Quality Act, an EIR is prepared when a potential project might have a significant environmental impact on the physical environment. So an EIR has to look at all sorts of issues that could affect the physical environment. It's not just trees and flowers, wildlife. It also includes noise. It includes health impacts. It can include health impacts, air quality. There's a full range of potentially significant impacts that have to be looked at. And as staff said, 22 miles, there are going to be a lot of potential impacts. And one of the other things that's, I think, a real strength of an EIR is that there's a requirement to look at alternatives. So it's not just looking at one particular project, but what about some alternatives to that project? What are the potential impacts of that? And I think when we talk about ways of finding maybe cheaper options than the Zeppert approach to providing rail service, those kinds of options can be looked at through the EIR process. So I think there's really a lot of benefits to the extent that there's a chance of moving forward with, or that the commission is committed to moving forward to the next step to trying to get an EIR done. It will take a long time. When the questions were being asked, I was trying to remember how many years it took to do the EIR for the Highway 1 project, the major project. I'm forgetting what it was called then. I think it took about 10 years, and I'm afraid to even guess the number of millions of dollars that went into producing that EIR. And for the same reason, it's a long distance. And there are a lot of environmental factors that could be impacted. So I hope that's helpful. I did want to respond to Commissioner Koenig's point about alternatives to if we don't get the full amount, because I think it's not unusual for it to take a while for projects to get the full funding to get carried out. I remember many projects in the 3rd District and Santa Cruz where we waited years, slowly accumulating the money that we could get out of one funding source or another before it was possible to actually do a particular project that we wanted to do. So from my perspective, I wouldn't be too quick about saying, well, if it's not enough to do it in year 1, we should just give up on using the money for that. Because there's going to be a year 2 and there's going to be a year 3, and other sources of fundings may come out. So I would be hesitant to support a notion of saying, well, if we don't get full funding in year 1, we're just going to use it for something else. Because that's, this is a long-term project with or without the EIR. And if it takes a few more years to get the full funding for the EIR, I think it's worth going through those steps.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think that we've heard a couple of points of view. Perhaps a way to go on this, because I think the supervisor raises a good point. We don't want money sitting around, no particular purpose is being served. A year or 2 might be too short in that regard. I wonder if what we might do, because I think that Commissioner Schifrin raises a good point as well. I wonder if a way to deal with this might be that the concept that we are approving today is we will seek, in this case, state funding through the budget process for the 26-27 fiscal year in the amount of $15 million or some portion thereof from the state. And that what we would do is work with Senator Laird and others because the issue that Supervisor Koenig raises is one part of an issue in this. There's another part of an issue or of this issue which goes to in effect, what the money can be used for. So we would want to tie that up, it seems to me, in a way that it's very specific, how we're doing this, what period of time we have, and so on, especially if this is partial funding. This only arises when there's partial funding, if that's what we were granted, something less than the full amount. And so if we get less than the full amount, perhaps what we can do is come back here, because getting an appropriation takes a couple of steps. And undoubtedly, well, I don't know undoubtedly, let me correct it. Likely, if the senator is able to get that money in there, and if the governor does not blue pencil it in terms of eliminating it or reducing it, my guess is the governor is very likely to add what's called budget control language to it that puts some conditions around it. And we would want to be involved because there are folks from who are with us today who think that maybe some other belt and suspenders on this might make sense as well. So I wonder, Mr. Chairman, if in order to try to achieve those goals, again, when we get around to making a motion, if you and I and Commissioner Koenig can work with our legislative delegation to get the appropriate conditions put on this, that on one side have to do with length of time to spend money appropriated to us for an environmental impact report. And there are others who are here who have another set of issues around this that have to do with whether we're completely on track with the corridor ID issue and so on. So there's some technical issues around this that I think might benefit from this subcommittee, especially since we are going to Sacramento very quickly here next week, that we have some portfolio to negotiate some terms and conditions that go to Supervisor Koenig's issue, but also go to some of these issues that Fort and others, frankly, have raised about what happens if. So I wonder if we, when we get to a motion, if we might be granted a little bit of portfolio in our discussions in Sacramento to see if we can resolve those issues. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hurst.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Great discussion. I'm really glad we have such deep knowledge on the commission regarding some of these things. You know, when it comes to EIRs, they really need to be bulletproof. They need to hold up to all kinds of court inspections. And so it's a complicated process that takes a lot of work, and that takes a lot of money sometimes. When it comes to earmarks and appropriations, do they expire? Is there a time limit on that? We need to understand that. And as was said, it doesn't hurt to ask. And so let's make sure that we ask Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, and let's reach out to Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas as well, and see if we can make a positive impression and a positive ask from them. Well, thank you.
Thank you. With that, seeing no other commissioners, we're going to go out to the public, like the public to weigh on this item of the agenda.
Thank you, Chair Montesino and Commissioners. Matt Farrell speaking for Friends of the Rail and Trail. We encourage the Commission to move forward with seeking an earmark for the zero emission passenger rail and trail project, which includes the rail alignment and segments 13 through 20, and direct staff to coordinate the scoping process with the Corridor ID Step 2 Service Development Plan, which is expected to last through 2028, 2026 through 2028, and to coordinate the environmental analysis with the Step 3 NEPA review, which would occur as part of the Step 3 process following Step 2. I think that will make us competitive for the Chrissy grant application because we're qualified for the corridor ID. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Lonnie Faulkner with Equity Transit. And thank you, Mayor Keeley, for your work to move this forward. We definitely support moving forward with this earmark approval. I want to remind the Commission that we spent billions on highway widening that does not serve our community equally. It also means more cars on our roads contributing to our extreme climate change. It was 74 degrees in February. We need as many alternatives as possible and getting all automobiles off the road as possible. Rail is a critical alternative and an investment in this infrastructure that will last 50 to 100 years. It will allow tourists to come to our beaches and parks and serve people with disabilities, youth, our growing senior population, and commuters. I wanted to mention, I didn't get to the January 15th meeting, but I did watch it. And Mr. Cunningham did mention something about the Corridor ID program funding 80% of NEPA. And so I just had a question in regards to if we do this now, because he mentioned something about waiting to do the CEQA along with that. So I just wanted some clarification around that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here speaking for Trail Now. It's Brian Peoples is unable to attend. You have a letter from him in your packet. Trail Now respectfully urges the RTC Commission to reject the staff's request to pursue additional earmarks and grant funding for the environmental phase of the proposed project. We strongly oppose spending additional time, especially staff time, and taxpayer dollars advancing a project that would have no measurable effect on local traffic, won't improve the environment, and faces significant coastal act compliance obstacles. Continuing to prioritize this project diverts limited transportation funding from pressing needs, as some of the other earmark requests would say. Really, RTC, I think at some point you need to face the reality that rail doesn't work in Santa Cruz County and direct the public into a path of truth.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in chamber, anybody online?
We currently have two speakers, Brett Garrett. Mr. Garrett. Okay, we will come back to him. Joanna Lighthill.
Finally found.
Joanna. Joanna Lighthill.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioners, before directing staff to seek state or federal funding for the Zeppert project, please confirm that RTC will remain in compliance with the trail project's funding obligations. The trail is funded through CTC's Active Transportation Program, which requires funded projects to remain in place for a minimum of 20 years. Agenda item 23 today proposes Zeppert construction beginning in 2036, just 10 years from now. Because Zeppert would require the removal of the interim trail, the two projects appear to be incompatible under current timelines. So I hope that you'll clarify how the Commission intends to ensure compliance with state funding requirements or whether adjustments to the Zeppert timeline will be necessary. Thank you.
Mr. Garrett?
Oh, it's asking me to unmute again. Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have many mixed feelings about this. In general, I have not been supporting Zeppert because it's far too expensive for a transportation system that fails to serve our employment centers and our places that really need the transportation. Personal rapid transit is a better solution, and the railroad tracks simply don't go where transportation is needed. I'm not strongly opposed to requesting this money, but I do have concerns about the RTC pursuing federal funds and state funds that are needed by our 4 cities and the county itself for more urgent needs. I do see a possibility that the EIR could be a venue for studying PRT. PRT has many flavors, and each flavor of PRT could be a separate alternative studied in the EIR. So I would definitely support that if that comes to pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cami Corvin?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. My name is Cami Corvin. I'm a resident in Capitola, and I'm going to make my statement a little bit simplistic here. So, what I'm struggling with is to understand why the RTC is pursuing yet another $15 million study for a rail project that has no clear funding path. So, first, we're competing with other counties for this money, and if we're awarded, we're committing ourselves to a long-term rail plan that could take 20, 30, or even 40 years to fund. And if that happens, will the RTC come back to the taxpayers yet again, asking for more money to continue this process? And secondly, if these are state funds, can these be used for other urgent needs in Santa Cruz County? I mean, we're facing real challenges right now with homelessness, housing shortages, infrastructure needs, transportation improvements that people can actually use today. But we're pursuing yet another study, and the public deserves to know what is the actual end goal and what is the total cost to get there. Because $15 million is a lot of money, and our community deserves to know better. Thanks a lot for all your help. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Kev Coast?
That's it.
We have 2 more speakers.
Hello,
We can hear you.
this is Kevin McGuire. Yeah, I just wanted to ask or see if we can confirm, does this environmental process, would this even be accepted by state and federal rail programs? It sounds like they require their own environmental process, meaning that this study might not even advance the construction eligibility. So then it's a big waste of $15 million. So let's make sure that these funds are being useful, or we can fund other things like metro and road repairs and sidewalks in Watsonville. Thank you.
Jean Brocklebank?
Hello, commissioners. I came into this meeting today leaning very heavily in opposition to this request for earmarked funds. I've listened to Commissioner Keeley and others, and I'm still equivocal, not quite leaning as heavily against this as I was, although I'm still on the leaning against it side. Please understand that. I am very interested in what previous speaker, Ms. Lighthill, asked or suggested about we have the CTC funding for the interim trail now, and her concerns about how that will be affected. So I hope the commissioners will discuss that legitimate concern before your vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no other speakers.
With that, I'm going to close it and bring it back. Direction.
Mr. Chairman, I would move the recommendation in our packet with the language as it relates to seeking state funding for an EIR. So that's the part everything else is fine as is recommended. But as to that portion, perhaps we could have the following language: authorize the RTC to seek funding from the state of California for the purpose of preparing necessary environmental reports for the Zeppert project, and that Commissioners Montesino, Koenig, and Keeley be authorized to work with Senator Laird and others in Sacramento to have an application that deals with how long any funding would be retained by the RTC prior to engaging in an EIR, and also to have a portfolio to work with our state representatives to be certain that any such funding is consistent with the corridor ID work as well. That'd be the motion, sir.
I would second the motion if the maker of the motion would agree to add a report back to the commission at our next meeting on the results of the
absolutely
legislative session.
Agreeable. Thank you.
But that has been first and second. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Chair, we have one comment. Actually, it's a friendly amendment. First, I want to thank Mayor Keeley for the suggestion that we continue to fine tune our request, specifically with respect to the state. I do think that really for all of our requests, including federal earmarks, I would feel more comfortable if we included some kind of language along the following, that staff include in all funding requests and related documents for the zero emission passenger rail and trail project the ability for the commission to repurpose awarded funds for the coastal trail environmental impact reports if sufficient funding for the rail portion of the environmental document has not been identified by 2030 or the grant deadlines, whichever comes first. And I'll offer that as a friendly amendment.
Accepted as such.
Thank you.
But under discussion.
Well, wait, I have to, the second has to accept it as well. So the date that we would have to know is 2030?
Yes, or the grant deadlines, whichever comes soon.
Right.
And my understanding, based on some discussion with staff, maybe they could explain further, is that earmarks usually do come with something less than a 5-year deadline.
If I was really optimistic that we were going to get any of this money, I would probably ask for a longer time period. But given that I think we're really, as Senator Ladd had indicated, we're shooting for something close to 0 chance, I think I'll accept the second will accept the change, the friendly amendment.
Thank you. Under discussion, Mr. Chairman, my guess is this, and it is a guess, that if we have a level of success on this, it won't be full funding this year, which is why I think Supervisor Koenig's putting some brackets around this on what's the shelf life of what we're trying to do here with that. I think it is much more likely that this is a 2 or 3 fiscal year effort to a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit. Hey, my goodness, now we're at $15 million. We don't know what the state fiscal condition will be, even at the May revise this year, much less the year after and the year after that. So my guess is we are going to be back here asking for the next tranche, if you will. So this idea of sort of keeping the project alive relative to the EIR, but also having an end date in that, I am in agreement with you, sir, and would ask for an aye vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Martinez?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a friendly amendment or just a question. What I think what I would want to add to the amendment is kind of a as feasible within state restrictions, simply because my experience administering public funding is that sometimes they allow you to repurpose and sometimes they don't, kind of depending on what pool it's coming from. And so I am concerned that we may unintentionally constrain ourselves by asking for later flexibility, I guess.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, obviously, if it's from a rail only source, we wouldn't ask to repurpose it for trail EIR. I mean, if we could certainly add language like, and provided that the awarded funds are not from a rail only source, if you want, or something along those lines.
As I heard it, it was really, if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're referring to is that often there are restrictions put on allocations, and you want to be sure that the motion that's being passed and the commission recommendation doesn't prevent us from getting funding because there may be a restriction that isn't consistent with that. So I would ask the maker of the motion to add another amendment that would make clear that the request includes a recognition that any restrictions on the funding be acceptable. Any state restrictions on the funding be acceptable. Is that kind of what you had in mind?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Schifrin. I think that's good enough. I think I do want to leave space for the committee, which I'm very appreciative of your work, to negotiate this. I just want to make sure that the motion that we were proceeding with wouldn't restrict our opportunities. So thank you.
Is that okay with the maker of the motion? Thumbs up says yes, okay.
With that, seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Seeing none, motion passes. So we'll move on to our last item, which is Rural Highway Safety Plan.
Hi, thank you. Today we are presenting on the Rural Highways Safety Plan, which will be up in the screen in a second. This is a safety plan focused on the rural highways in Santa Cruz County. It's in part an update to the San Lorenzo Valley Plan, but to better align with grant funding requirements and the RTC's equity focus, this plan expands beyond the SLV area to include all rural highways in the county. The project is funded by a strategic partnership grant through Caltrans. And because the focus is on Caltrans highways, the project was developed in collaboration with Caltrans. So through our presentation today, we'll walk you through the process of defining the safety needs, and then share some examples of safety enhancement concepts and implementation opportunities. Next slide, please. The plan was developed to align with the safe system approach, which highlights 5 safe system elements. This includes safe road users, safe vehicles, safe speeds, safe roads, and post-crash care. And overall, this approach focuses on the roadway context and conditions that can lead to the most severe crashes, with the goal of addressing these safety conditions before those crashes occur. Next slide, please. Sure. Is this better?
Also, for everybody's benefit, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm sorry. Yes. My name is Alexandra. I'm with Farron Piers, and we are a consultant working with the RTC team on this project. Looks like we're close to back up and running. We could go to, that's perfect. So this slide shows the potential risk network, which is one way that we can think proactively about safety conditions, as I referred to in the slide before. Through this potential risk network, we looked at factors that can create the conditions that where severe crashes may occur. This framework aims to proactively address severe crashes before they occur, rather than reacting to high crash areas after those crashes have happened. To do this, we looked at three categories of factors. This includes exposure, which considers where, how, and how far people are traveling. Likelihood, which focuses on the roadway conditions and operating conditions. And then severity, which is really trying to capture how harmful a crash can be if it does occur. So we would look at vehicle speed and vehicle size. So on the maps here, the areas in red represent or show the areas where there are the most potential risk factors, and these represent the higher potential risk locations. An example of this is the segment right outside of Watsonville on Highway 152. Some of the factors there include destinations where people are walking, such as schools, higher average vehicle speeds, higher percentage of trucks, and wider roads. And so these are some of the factors that we're considering for this potential risk network. Next slide, please. Another part of the analysis was the safety profiles that we developed. Unlike the risk network, which was looking at crash conditions before the crashes occur, the safety profiles are informed by crash data from the past 10 years of available data. So these profiles represent factors that can contribute to what we call killed and severely injured crashes. So we abbreviate that to KSI, but it's focused on the most severe outcomes. One of the most common profiles is excessive speeding, which is associated with 40% of all KSIs on the rural highways. This is especially emphasized in Main Street or town center areas where people might be walking and biking and can be more vulnerable to these severe outcomes. So in these areas, excessive speed is associated with over 70% of all KSIs. Next slide, please. Cool. So we use this analysis and the community input, which we'll talk about in a second, to identify areas with the greatest need. And so these translate to the projects, which are shown here in yellow. This is informed by the crash history, the potential risk network, the safety profiles, and the community's priorities. We also defined 8 emphasis areas, which are shown in orange, and these reflect high-risk locations that have context that can be applied to similar locations across these highways. So with that, I'll pass it off to Brianna, who will talk about the engagement and dive into more of the safety enhancement concepts for these emphasis areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Good morning, all. Brianna Goodman of your staff. In addition to analysis of crash data and existing conditions, the Rural Highway Safety Plan included sustained and robust public outreach. Milestone 1 covered capturing existing conditions and understanding initial community concerns. Milestone 2 involved receiving input on identified common safety profiles from the previous slide, potential enhancement countermeasure types, such as sidewalks, curb extensions, crosswalk enhancements, and potential emphasis area locations. Milestone 3 allowed the opportunity to refine draft emphasis area enhancement concepts and confirm that the final report matched community expectations. At every step of the process, the team sought input and collaboration from business leaders, advocacy and community groups, first responders, and the general public. Next slide, please. We will now walk through a couple examples of the emphasis area safety enhancement concepts. All of them are provided to you in the staff report as attachment 2 if you want to follow along. This emphasis area shows an example of accommodating all road users within town centers with a narrow right-of-way. This particular location has a high pedestrian fatality rate. The design focuses on reducing speeding and enhancing crossings through countermeasures such as gateway medians and curb extensions. The SLB program team has secured 2 federal earmarks for this location, totaling $2.35 million for pre-construction. Next slide, please. This emphasis area shows an example of providing safe multimodal access near schools, parks, and other key destinations for locations with a wide right-of-way and high vehicle speeds, as Ali previously mentioned. Countermeasures here include enhancing transit access and safety for students accessing the campuses by foot, bike, and car. The Santa Cruz County Fair Board is very supportive of multimodal access to reduce parking demand and would support reducing admission fees for pedestrians and cyclists similar to their current policies for transit users. This location is an example of a strong contender for active transportation program funding. Slide. This emphasis area shows an example of accommodating increased bicycle and pedestrian use of a main street with no stop control. This example includes utilizing rolled or mountable curb, which is a great potential solution for creating safe space for vulnerable users while maintaining off right-of-way private parking access, in addition to more standard complete streets features such as enhanced crosswalks and Class 1 multimodal paths. Lowered speed limits that are shown here will be a key component for many identified safety enhancement locations. Slide, please. So today we recommend that you accept this final report, and once the County of Santa Cruz accepts their Safety Action Plan final report in May, SLV program staff will be able to apply for Safe Streets for All funding this June. We would like to note that projects do not have to be in the project list to be eligible for funding, just within the project area and utilizing identified safety countermeasures. The Rural Highway Safety Plan and the Santa Cruz County Safety Action Plan open all locations on county roads and rural highways up for proactive Safe Streets for All and reactive Highway Safety Improvement Program funding for the next 5 years, which could be secured by any local agency, and RTC staff will continue to explore opportunities for collaboration, including with existing Caltrans projects. That concludes our presentation. If commissioners have questions, the project manager with Fair and Piers, Steve Davis, is also online joining us from Japan to assist. So thank you.
Commissioner, questions? Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, good, still morning, afternoon? Good morning. All right. First of all, I just want to thank you for your work on this. And it's particularly relevant to me right now. As last week, I had the opportunity to attend the Youth Civic Summit hosted by United Way. And particular area that I was working was a billboard where students had the opportunity to talk about the question was, what items would you like to see your government take more seriously? And overwhelmingly, students from both Watsonville, Pajaro, and San Lorenzo Valley spoke specifically to traffic safety concerns versing back and forth to school, through the rural highways that exist in that area. So this is top of mind for our youth. And this is top of mind, of course, for community. And so I just want to take the opportunity to let you know that, first of all, the youth are thinking about this and they're very concerned. And they hit me with some curveballs on it, for sure. But also, too, I wanted to thank your efforts towards this to make these areas safer for our kids as they're going back and forth to their activities and to school.
Commissioner Downing.
Yes, first of all, thank you for the report. It was really strong, easy to read. And I wanted to specifically mention the interactive map survey. I think that allowed people to really drill down to some of those spots. I had a couple of questions about the site. Go through that. So in the Scott Creek area, I had a couple questions. I noticed there wasn't anything included about the bridge over Scott Creek. Is anything going to change there? It's a really narrow bridge. I just didn't know if there were going to be any improvements to the bridge itself.
Yesenia, would you be able to page, there's some additional slides at the end of my presentation. We could put the Scott Creek enhancement concept up to help. Thank you for that question, Commissioner Downing. This one is actually was a little bit harder for us to come up with a really good safety enhancement concept because there's already so much work being done here at this location for the Scott Creek Coastal Resilience Project. So we worked with the lead on that project, and we are showing additional safety enhancements that we think would be able to go above and beyond what their project already is, which does involve major changes to the bridge. These could also be standalone changes that could be implemented before that bridge replacement goes through. But we did not touch the bridge too much, basically, because that's already covered by a separate project. Did you have a specific safety concern in mind?
Well, cyclists love Highway 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a little bit of a choke point there. So I think anything that can help drivers understand how to share that bridge, great.
Mm-hmm.
The other question I had on this particular project was the safety feedback signs. They're going to be far enough away from the area because I believe coming towards the bridge from the northbound side, coming down a hill.
From the northbound side, yes, that's where the big hill is. I mean, there's a little bit of a hill on both sides, but
fast.
yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure that they have enough information to slow down.
Yeah, those would be placed well ahead of, like they typically see them before the speed limit, actually. Yeah,
and
that's
maybe
correct.
same thing.
Ali, did you want to add anything on that or no? Yeah.
And the northbound, the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's I'm not sure about that. And then on the Davenport, that project looks really good. I'm so pleased to see that. I know that there are already some flashing signs approaching. Are we going to do anything before that to just get people aware, or do you think that's sufficient?
Well, the existing signs are just a general, pedestrians may be crossing anywhere in this area. And as part of the Segment 5 rail trail project, they will be putting in a dedicated crosswalk, which will have its own enhancements and not just sort of that general warning sign. And here in this enhancement concept, we are suggesting that to further enhance safety at that crosswalk, it would actually become one of those hawk beacons where you push the button and it does, by law, become a stoplight.
Great. I know you didn't really talk about the Murphy Road roundabout, but it is here in your report. And I just want to emphasize how important that roundabout would be. And also on that particular spot to maybe have approach signs as well to slow people down before they get to it. Because a lot of times people just, the one that's already there, there's people just run right up to it and then stop. So just recommend you make sure the approaches are really easy.
Do you want to speak to that, Ali? There's a little bit of discussion in the report about multiple roundabouts and how they effectively sow that kind of speeding.
Yes. So I would say generally, in addition to what's shown in the concepts, we make recommendations about placing appropriate signage in advance of concepts. But what Brianna was referring to is one consideration we had is when you place multiple roundabouts, especially on 129, it can have a sort of corridor-wide speed management strategy that's along the corridor rather than at these isolated areas that can kind of achieve greater speed reductions.
Yeah, and I've asked all these because those of us that live here drive these roads all the time, but then we have visitors who have no idea about some of the curves and anything we can do to get them to. Thank you.
Commissioner Martin.
Thank you. I also want to extend my gratitude for the work. I mean, the engagement that you did in my district was really valuable. I know a lot of people had an opportunity to give feedback, and the plans as proposed, I think could really improve just the safety and quality of life for so many of my residents. My question is just about sort of what this tees us up for. I see that you're going to apply in June for some Safer Streets funding, but looking into the future, where might other sources of funding come from that would support advancing the goals in this plan?
So this plan is specifically following the protocols of the Safe Streets for All Action Plan, and that is the update of the highway safety improvement programs local roadway safety plan requirements. And so this will specifically open up those two funding pots for safety enhancement. There are a slew of other grant opportunity types that are identified at the end of the report, and there's some language in there about which of these projects would be the best fit for those. As you know, we have Measure D with $10 million to use as match funding for projects on Highway 9 and within 1/4 mile of Highway 9, so that would cover some of 236 as well. RTC doesn't have dedicated match funding for these other locations, but we would be able to continue to actively collaborate with the county and other local agencies to seek funding, as well as work with Caltrans to add components to their existing SHOP program. And since this is a strategic partnership grant, we've had Caltrans on our project team this whole time. This is going to be, they have ownership of this as well. This is a plan that is theirs as well. So that goes a long way.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate any opportunity to leverage the information in this plan for future funding.
Commissioner Hurst.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate this report as well. And I want to thank staff and the consultants that have worked on this. As you know, Highway 152, 129, and Highway 1 are the gateways to the Pajaro Valley. And I think road safety is critically important everywhere. In fact, it's a matter of life, death, or critical injury. So thank you for your work.
Thanks.
I just, in that regards, segue, specifically on 129, was there any thought to put a railing in the middle after like Murphy Camp? Because we get a death at least 1 to 2 a year, head-on collisions, past when, there's all those turns, because we have a lot of truck traffic and also people living all the way to Los Baños because of, the housing impact. Like I said, was there any consideration on that?
I'm sorry, sir. I think I missed the noun. Did you want a center median divider?
Yeah, center median divider.
Okay. We have sorry, Yesenia, can you go to the hairpin curve example? It's got some good countermeasure types for high speeds and very rural areas we could talk about. And I'm actually going to pass this over to Allie.
Maybe back a couple more, 3 or 4 more. Yes, that's one. Thank you. So the idea of these concepts is that these represent like typical locations that could be applied to several places. So there are a lot of improvements from this concept, which is obviously not 129, that could be applied to address some of the concerns you're discussing. So in this area, which is a little bit narrower, rumble strips can address those lane departures, which you're mentioning. But we also did consider in areas that are wider, different median improvements as well. And for all of the projects on this list and projects that could potentially be considered that aren't on our project list but are on these highways, they would need further evaluation to identify the specific design improvements. So that would definitely be something that could be considered too.
Thank you. With that, we're going to go out to the public to end this item on the agenda.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lonnie Faulkner with Equity Transit. Thank you so much for this work. I actually had the opportunity to join many of these early sessions. I'm also a part of the Community Traffic Safety Coalition, and as many of you are aware and have seen the report, we are at the top, which isn't a good thing in terms of serious injuries, deaths, crashes in our community. So this is great work, and I really appreciate seeing it move forward. Effective January 1st, California Assembly Bill 382 authorized local authorities to reduce speed limit in school zones from 25 to 20 miles an hour. I would ask us to consider that this should be done not just between 9 and 3 p.m. because students come and go all day long. There's activities, there's sports, etc. We know that studies have shown if we keep speed limits below 25 and ideally 20, lives are saved. And the more we can do that on surface streets, the better. Roundabouts are the gold standard. And what I'm concerned about right now is on many surface streets, I'm actually seeing speed limits increase even up to 30 to 35 miles an hour. This is a death knell. We've just had friends hit with a car. Thank you so much.
Thank you, RTC, for the efforts, and Farron Pierce, Jim Helmer. I'm speaking as the chair of the Better Streets Committee for the Ben Lomond Village Alliance, which makes up over 800 members. And regarding Highway 9, it's not only our gateway, it's our main street. And that really is our only option in many cases. That's why I'm here always talking about reducing speeds, building trails, building crosswalks. When it comes to funding, you know, Measure D was passed 10 years ago. So far, several communities on Highway 9 have not received any funding. And part of that is they go through a very arduous, long capital project process. Caltrans can fund projects in three ways: capital, like we talked about earlier; maintenance, like a shop project; or operational, like lowering a speed limit or putting in a crosswalk. I would urge RTC and Caltrans to consider the faster methods before we have to wait another 10 years to get beyond studies and to make some low-cost improvements. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Curlett, and I work with the county community. I'm a little nervous today. I'm a health educator with Santa Cruz County Public Health, and I staff our Community Traffic Safety Coalition. I want to express on behalf of the coalition our strong support for the Rural Highway Safety Plan and thank the staff and partners who developed it. In our county, rural highways serve not only drivers, but also pedestrians and bicyclists. Many of these roads have sharp curves, limited visibility, and minimal safety features. This plan provides a clear roadmap to address these challenges and aligns closely with our mission to prevent traffic injuries and fatalities for all road users. We especially appreciate the plan's focus on equity. We are grateful to the Regional Transportation Commission for advancing this important work and look forward to supporting its implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else here. Is there anybody online?
We have no speakers.
With that, bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Sherford.
Yes. First, I want to thank staff as well and the consultants for this report. Of course, our particular interest is on the North Coast, and seeing both the Davenport and Scott Creek recommendations was important. Particularly in Davenport, the project that has been a long-standing need to deal with the traffic going through the town. The improvements that are going to come from the Rail Trail Segment 5 project, the traffic light there are important, but it's very gratifying to see that the plan and Caltrans has recognized the currently unsafe pull-out areas, pull-on areas. It's kind of a mess there, particularly for pedestrians and bicyclists moving just along the main street of the town, which is Highway 1. So I'm glad it's there in the plan, and I hope that it will lead to a shop project from Caltrans, because that's been a huge problem in the past, trying to get the funding available to seriously look at that whole length of Highway 1 going through the town and trying to rationalize how it works. So if there are, since other commissioners have made comments, I'd make a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
And move. Oh, second by Commissioner Downing. Any other comments or questions?
Just one of the things I know often we hear, we'd like to see speeds below 25, or we have different speeds that in our community we'd like to see. But we have to remember that to be able to enforce those speeds, the engineers' reports have to back it up. And that's some of the challenges I've seen through the years, is that if we don't have those reports, we can all agree that we'd like to see a speed, but it can't be enforced unless the engineer reports uphold that recommendation. So some of the, all of our wishes are limited in what can be done with enforcement. And once the public knows, that isn't enforceable, we lose all of that, all of the opportunities that we would like to have. So we need to be sure that we can set a speed that is backed up and can be enforced by whatever agency is involved.
Thank you. With that, seeing no other comments, all those in,
I just want to clarify, because I've heard a couple statements be made on our safety program that are not exactly accurate. So there's a couple of things with the safety program. We have our reactive safety, and that's where we have an accident concentration or collision concentration that we must address in our SHOP program. And then we have our proactive safety program, which is a much smaller pot of money. So what this plan is really doing from a Caltrans perspective is it's opening the door for proactive safety programs at the federal level, like which was mentioned, which is the Highway Safety Improvement Program. That's a federal program that the locals can compete for those dollars. And the Safe Routes for All program, which is another federal program. So what this plan is really doing is opening up those opportunities for those funding programs. As it relates to the SHOP program that Caltrans manages, we certainly will collaborate with RTC on the proactive side to see if there are opportunities. However, I wouldn't make the assumption that this plan is going to be funded through the SHOP program. So I just want to make that clear. We are continuing to collaborate with RTC and staff to look for opportunities where we may find some funding opportunities, maybe outside of necessarily the SHOP program. We can look at things like our active transportation plans and other things as well. But I just want to make that clarification. I don't want folks to have the impression that Caltrans is going to now be funding these projects.
Can't we?
You certainly, and we would love to collaborate with you on what is possible and what funding programs we have available, but we do have limitations and restrictions on our safety program. So I just want to make that clarification.
thank you for the clarification, but you burst my bubble. With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Seeing none, motion passes. So thank you, and we'll see you next meeting. That calendar right here, March 19th at special meeting at the RTC office. So thank you.
I'm sorry, did you say the meeting's at the RTC office?